Hi, Rick here, Finca in Boquete, Panama. Beautiful Boquete. Uh, we're going to talk about processing coffee. And once the coffee is harvested, we'll have either bowls of it from individual trees or buckets and buckets and buckets from uh, the rest of the farm. But either way, we need to process them, and we need to process them pretty soon. This is fruit, and sitting in buckets or sacks in the tropics, things can happen pretty fast. So we really want to process same day, the next day, pretty soon after harvesting. So we have some here that we need to process, but we have to decide which way we're going to process it. We have a couple options, a few options. So the oldest, simplest way of processing coffee is called dry process or natural process. And to make this, we just take the fruit and lay the whole thing out in the sun. Problem is, this is Boquete and it's not always that hot and sunny here. So this doesn't always work so well. But like everything in the world, there's a trade-off, right? There's advantages and disadvantages. So the good side, the advantage to this is it doesn't require any special equipment. You literally lay it in the sun with the whole fruit and it dries. And what you get is kind of a unique character to it. So dry process, this is the old method. And when they're dried, we end up with, well, it looks like dried fruit. That's what it is. So a little extra character because as this fruit dries, some of those flavors kind of work their way into the beans, and you end up with a little more character to your coffee. That's the good part. The bad part is this takes a long time. For us, with good weather, probably 6 weeks. And there's a high risk of mold starting to grow on this in that time frame, and you cannot fix molded coffee. It's never going to turn out right. So this is an option. We do some of it usually later in the harvest when we think there's going to be more sun. But that's one way. That's not what we're doing today. Most coffee in the world is processed like this. This is called wet process, sometimes called washed. And the way we make this is by taking the fruit off of the skin. But when we do this, when we take this fruit portion off, there's still some fruit that's stuck to the bean. It makes it very slippery and slimy. This has a name. It's called mucilage. The thing is, all that extra moisture means it takes longer to dry. So we'd like to remove this. And it turns out there's actually a pretty easy way of doing this. If you let this bean with the mucilage on it sit in water for a day or two, like this, that mucilage will start to come off. And so then when you go to dry it, you don't have to get rid of the moisture that was in the fruit or the moisture that was in the mucilage. And it seems kind of backwards, but soaking it in water actually makes it dry much, much faster. And this is why factories love it, because it's very quick and there's low risk of mold. So this is an option. We do some of that, especially early in the season. When we don't have as much sun, this is a very safe way of making coffee. The trade-off is we're losing those flavors that are in the fruit, though, because we're washing them off. It's called washed coffee. So this is an option, but there is something else. There's something in between. If we take the skin off of the fruit, but we leave that little bit of fruit stuck to the bean, the mucilage, and dry it all together, that's what's called honey process coffee. And it gets this beautiful dark brown golden color, and this is from the sun interacting with the sugars that are in that mucilage, the fruit. And what we get is something kind of in between. We still get some of those flavors that we get with dry process. So it has a little bit more character, but this lets us dry it a lot faster. So the risk of mold is a lot lower. And this is our favorite. When somebody has their own tree here, they get to make this decision. But a lot of this is weather dependent. We're early in the harvest right now. We don't have lots of hot sun, and so we're doing a little more wet process right now. But that depends on the person and the time of year. Different places will do different things, just depends on what you like. But those are really the three methods we have of processing coffee to then dry it and then go on to the next stages. But whenever you pick it, you really need to be processing it in pretty short order. So that's the step after harvesting.